Welcome to Meller Notes podcast. This is the birthplace. This is where everything is starting. That's why we're calling this the episode zero. This is the pilot. You know why some web series and shows they have the pilot as the first episode? Why they have that to showcase that something big is going to start, but they need to validate something first. That's why we are here. But what is this? Well, personal and professional development for people who want to grow their careers. That is why we are here. So, if you want to become more visible, to lead better, to manage work and life with clarity and in the best way possible, running away from the hype, running away for just reading the news and not knowing what is actually happening around you. That's why we are here. Okay? Because when you are looking outside, everything seems to be so fast. Things are changing every day. AI is going to take your job. Some companies doing some, s- very strange things related to jobs. So, what is actually happening? How can you be positioned, prepared? How can you organize your thoughts to know exactly how everything that is happening is going or not to impact your career? And that's why we're here. That's why we are together to reflect. Meller Notes, this podcast exists to help you, curating and helping you with content on career, leadership, and management, or basically everything that can help you with your professional and personal development. And how this is going to work? Well, basically, we're going to see in every episode what is actually the things that you should be paying your attention, where your attention should be. Because it's very easy to see something on the internet or read something and be scared because something huge is happening. As I mentioned, AI is one of them. But calm down. What is actually the message? What is actually happening around you? And how you can organize yourself to act or to maybe not act, depending on what you're working on, what you want to be in the future. And to make some reflections, I want to bring some stories. Maybe you know some of them. Let's start with one of them that maybe you already knew about, but never reflected from this perspective, okay? In 1985, Steve Jobs was removed from Apple. Do you know that? Yeah, he was removed from Apple after a conflict with the board in the company and actually with the CEO, John Sculley, who actually Steve Jobs brought to Apple. And that's interesting to reflect because if you never knew that, yes, it's the same guy, the same genius who created the company. The company was having some trouble, some issues, and Steve Jobs was removed, was fired from the company he founded. For the public, of course, the narrative was quite a specific one. Is the brilliant guy, he's the genius, but is it unstable as a leader? And he was not helping the company to move forward. That was like the narrative that was built around the fact that was happening with Steve Jobs leaving Apple. So yeah, he left. What happened is that in the same year, he found Next. In 1985, the same year, he found a new company. In 1986, the year after that, uh, Next acquires Pixar from George Lucas. And there's a deep lesson here from the company for the company in the product focus and storytelling, how to organize a product with one specific goal, and that's what they did. But then what happened after a while, and after Steve Jobs learned all those lessons with Next, is that he returned to Apple. In 1997, Apple acquires Next, and Steve Jobs returns as an interim CEO. Of course, he would become the CEO of the company and lead all the innovations that we're going to see in the years ahead. But when he came back to Apple, he drastically reduced the product line and the roadmap for the products. He cut it dozens of product lines and models, and he put the same lesson he learned at Next. To focus on the right things, you need to cut things. To focus on the single most important thing, you need to cut the noise. You need to come back to the basic. You need to learn the fundamentals. And that was basically what Steve Jobs did returning to Apple. Let's go with another one, okay? Netflix. You know Netflix. Maybe you're watching Netflix, not now, I hope, but you do that quite frequently. Maybe I don't know how much you know about Netflix, but that company was founded in 1997 as a DVD by mail company. Crazy, right? Around 1999, they were super profitable. They were quite, dominant on the specific thing they were doing. Things were good. But then some years ahead, 2007, they launched streaming. Why? The technology was the tech around us was still immature. The license uncertainty and a lot of other uncertainties were around this thing. Why they were doing that? And there was a big internal resistance on this because maybe they were cannibalizing or going against their own goal with the DVD revenue. But leadership reframed this to a central question: how do not to how we deliver DVDs better or how we improve in this specific thing, but several steps back. The question they asked was, how do we provide easy access to entertainment? You see the difference here? It's a long term bet, but asking the right questions. How many times do you stop in your career and ask yourself, what exactly I want to provide to the company that's going to hire me, or to the business that I'm building, or to the people around me? What is the value I want to provide, the person I want to be? So you should leave, or maybe accept that you need to have some short-term discomfort to bet on the right thing for the future. If you look only to the hype, only to the news, it won't really appear that something bad is going to happen to your career. You're going to lose your job. Your career will not exist in the future. But wait. What is actually happening around you in your career, in your position that you should reflect before even considering any movement? That is the point. But let's go with one other one, and this is the last one a story. This one about Kodak. Do you know that in 1975, an engineer from the company built the first prototype of a digital camera? The technology was developed internally in Kodak, yes. But the film business they had was very profitable, strong margins. They were a dominant global brand. Everything was working just fine, just as it should, and nothing outside looked like it will destroy the company. But the fear of destroying their own revenue, not thinking about the future and not asking the right questions as Netflix did, made the digital innovation be put on the side. But competitors don't wait, and they move actually aggressively. In the 90s, digital camera arrived, and Kodak in 2012 they actually went to bankruptcy, but their business started to die since the moment the technology started to advance with other competitors. They had the innovation. They maybe knew what to do, but they didn't move. And that is back to the same point I'm reflecting again and again. What is happening around you, around the job you have, around the topics you enjoy, that maybe you are not seeing, but you have everything that is needed to be leading that field, to be the best one in your area. And you are in this moment, maybe you have this fear of moving and doing something wrong. When I started creating content more than 15 years ago, I was never afraid about specifically how that would impact my career, because that was walking together with my career and have been it has been walking together with my career since now. And now I'm creating a new type of content. Why? Because I'm asking or trying to ask the right questions to myself. If you understood now the big context, that's why we are here. That's why I am here talking to you, because I want you to do not make the same mistakes, and I want you to reflect, to not rush on the wrong things, to not be so concerned about what is happening that maybe is not even realistic, and to calm down and reflect on the right things. That's why I am going to create the best content to you to ensure that you reflect only on the right and the best things every week that is going to impact your career. You can trust on me on that, that if you stop with me for a while, we are going to see that many of those things that are happening, they are actually the same that happens sometimes in history, but in no other way. If there is something that we should be concerned, let's reflect with the right tools, look into what research is telling us, which data do we have to make decisions, and how we can be more prepared. If we need to learn some new skill, let's learn that together, but let's know which one specifically are the right ones that we should be concerning to develop right now. So you see, right? Three stories, three different outcomes, and they look like innovation cases. But underneath, they are actually about clarity, about identity, and understanding what game you're actually playing. Do you know what game are you playing? Do you understand that? Do you understand the rules around you? Because this is true for our careers as well. So I think that's clear why this podcast exists and why we have this introduction episode. Not going to be like the next ones. Be prepared for the next one next week. Please subscribe, follow, because there is a lot of great things to you. But I think it's clear to you, right? Companies, they lose when they forget what they truly do or why they exist. Professionals, unfortunately, lose for the same reason. And they get out of the game because they are also not asking the right questions, not make the right reflections. And this is not a lack of intelligence. It's a lack of, well, it's a lack of understanding what exactly from all this noise, from all this information, I should be paying attention right now. Those professionals, they accumulate many skills without revising the identity behind the person they want to be, what they want to provide. They try to improve the tools without thinking on the behaviors they have and the habits they are building and the behavior they are building, every day with the decisions they make. And that's why we need to reflect on this. What exactly are the best way to start your day to have a very productive day? What are the best ways to organize your personal branding to be better positioned online? And even if you are a more senior professionals who hate even talk about personal branding, there are for sure strategies, the ones based on fundamentals that work, not hype, but the strategies that you can use to improve how you position yourself and how you're prepared for everything that can or would impact your career in the coming years. So, this podcast, Meller Notes, exists for that layer, the layer before the action, the question before the strategy. This podcast is about personal and professional development, but we are grounded in reality. And as you're going to see, or maybe you already know that if you follow me in other channels and all the content I've been creating for over 15 years, you know that books, they have been one of my main tools for building that clarity. I read a lot. I really read a lot of books. And those books, they will be, you know, the fundamental blocks underneath everything we're going to talk here. Because we should not talk just on the motivation layer. We should look to what exactly are the fundamentals, the base for the decisions we should make and how we should transform something in our life, but based on facts. All right? Because Reading expands the time horizon. We can see things that are happening today that are actually the same that happening again in the past century. The behavior and the patterns are the same. Reading will help you to see that. And of course, experience. That's another thing that I will bring a lot to this episode. Experience can help you connect all the dots. I'm not intended to make a big introduction about myself, but since I spoke about experience, I've been working for more than 15 years with technology and I've been working on leading teams, global teams. I'm a Brazilian living in Sweden, but with strong connections still with Latin America. And I have many connections and friends in US and also across the world, so I can bring the experience and the vision that I see happening here in Europe, but also with the Latin American connection, and then with the broad America, Asia, Africa, all the connections together. Because for 15 years creating content, I've made very good connections with people that are talking the same as I am, but in other language, people in Africa, in Asia, in other countries. And we are connected to make sure that our readers, the people following us, they are understanding and following the same things. And we are not talking on something that is super specific to a region and is not going to maybe be relevant to you wherever you are. So we are here together to make things walk as they should. Um, my content will be always connecting reality, so the facts, things happening around you, with the books and the fundamentals and the theories behind, so we can reflect, as I said, only on the right things, and then that's how we are going to move ahead. Because, as I mentioned, and I talk a lot about AI already, but is AI going to replace your role? Does that make you afraid of something? Should you change career? Should you study something else? Should you study a new skill? That's not how we react. And here, we are here to think. We are here to grow together. I never build clarity or optimize things in my life or my career without stepping back and looking to the fundamentals and everything that was actually just a noise for my decision. I try to always step back and connect. Like, are we doing the right movement, whatever we are doing, or are we maybe just afraid and then trying to improve something that should not be improved, trying to, you know, become better in a game that we should not even play? Those reflections, I think they are going to be super nice to have together with you. So I'm glad you are here since the first episode, or the before the first episode, in this introduction, this calibration with you. What you can expect, as I said, the stories that can help us, the books, they will be always present. Actually, in this episode, we are going to talk about a point on the book that can connect everything I said in a very good way. The book is here. But the goal is always to learn, to think clearly, to decide consciously, not with the noise, but with something that make difference to your career. As I said, Meller Notes, this podcast exists to create content on career, leadership, management, and not only what is happening right now, but something that happened in the past that can help us to understand more better our present and prepare to the future. Maybe a paper from the 80s, from the 70s can help us see with much more clarity something that is happening around us. And I will make sure that I bring them to you. So we reflect always grounded on facts, studies, and things that make difference. Of course, with experience always on the table, bringing my experience to help you. Good. As I said, we have a book, and I will always try to bring books, even though I've been reading much more on, Kindle recently. This is a book that I have the paper copy here, The 4 Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss. And the quote that I want to reflect a bit is this one from the book that says, "To enjoy life, you don't need fancy nonsense, but you do need to control your time and realize that most things just aren't as serious as you make them out to be." You know, we talk here about the different stories. and we talk about the noise and everything. But the point is always where we are going to dedicate our energy going forward. Every episode, we are going to see also something that is coming from the news, something from different industries that can impact your career. But in the end, what you do with that, the action you take from the information is the most relevant thing, because you need to control your time, and you need to control how you allocate your time, and you need to control how you dedicate energy to the different areas of your life. And this is something that I try to do all the all the time with the things that are happening to my career. Is this something that I should dedicate my energy, allocate my time, and maybe develop myself better? Should I pay more attention on something to rebrand myself online? Should I change something on my position, on my job? Should I change something? Or maybe I should just leave it? As I said, this is a pilot. And do you know why pilot exists? I don't know if you know that, but many shows they start with that. And this episode is also for testing. Testing many things here today with you. So I'm glad that you are actually listening to this one. And I want to give you a special gift, a very small bonus, just for listening this episode to the end. And this is an Easter egg, because if people still listen to this episode at any point in 2026, they will get the same bonus. So yeah, that's for you. If you listening to this one, subscribe to any of my newsletters and message me saying that you listened to this episode to the end, I'm going to give you 35% discount in the payment in the paid subscription of this newsletter. So it's a special gift to you listening to the end. Okay? So spread the message, be prepared, because Meller Notes is here to help you. Because Steve Jobs from the story return to focus. Netflix returned to the essential question. And Kodak, they did not return on time. Principles require conscious application. Direction requires deliberate thought. And maybe the problem is not effort, because maybe you're putting all your energy or effort doing something, but you're focused on the wrong thing. The problem is always clarity. If you care about your career, if you care about thinking before move, if you care about growing and growing with intention, growing consistently, and if you care about leading and managing in the best way possible, grounded in principles and things that actually work, stay with me. Welcome to Meller Notes.